Hello, everybody. Welcome to Moment of Clarity. I'm LeeCamp. Thanks for joining me as this tsunami of AI job loss, just the shadow looms over top of all of us, and we all go about our lives acting like everything's going to be fine. I'm going to be getting to that. I'm going to be getting to a lot of stories, what's going on in China, Ukraine, more activists disrupting the ruling elite. I'm going to show you those videos. But I got to start with something that just happened. Your friend and mine, your friend and mine, friend of the show, the Unabomber has died. Good pal of mine, Unabomber, has died in his prison cell. And it's kind of ironic that he dies on the day when I was going to do this segment on AI. Is there's predictions AI will take 50% of all jobs over the next 2-3 years. Unabomber, of course, Ted Kaczynski. There were some things I wasn't a fan of, like the whole serial killing thing. That I wouldn't put that on my list of like top 5 things I like about him. But he, of course, his manifesto and supposedly why he was murdering random people was because he was saying that humanity and society is going down a horrible path because of the advance of technology and what it's doing to people. And I'll be honest, I have not read his entire manifesto. However, I think I could get ChatGPT to summarize the Unabomber manifesto rather quickly. Oh, God, how much would he hate that? Computer, tell me what Unabomber said. He was known for saying that, and another reason I felt important to bring up the fact that he just died is because he was essentially turned into a serial murderer, unintentionally. I think I don't think it was their main goal, but by MK Ultra, by the MK Ultra program. He was at Harvard. He was 17 years old. They decided to fuck with various Harvard students and people around the country in various ways. But in his example, a Harvard professor who worked with the MK Ultra program did a bunch of things to see how much they could screw with students' minds in a variety of ways. And he was just very susceptible to this. He was a troubled young person, a shy young person, and it really kind of broke him, and he was never the same. And then he goes on to become a serial murderer, and then our government goes, "What MK Ultra? We don't know what you're talking about." Very little talk of MK Ultra as they were doing all of this coverage, like this report from 1996 about the Unabomber and the murders he was involved in. So yes, your friend of mine, the Unabomber, has passed away. Again, I want to make it quite clear. I'm not a fan of serial murdering. I do not recommend it for others. However, other than that, the guy had some fair points to be made about where society's heading. Where society's heading. Anyway, that being said, let's get back to the main story here. Please click subscribe. Please click thumbs up. Do all that stuff. Leave a comment, even if you have nothing to say. And if you're watching on my locals page, LeeCamp.net, which will take you to my locals page, the last half hour or so of this live stream will be a Q&A just for you. So you folks will be getting that exclusively at LeeCamp.net. But anyway, so I want to get, and I also am going to get into Roger Waters hitting back against all this bullshit that's being said about him. I'm going to show you some videos on that as well. But so it's not just, there's several articles that are talking about how AI is going to be taking away all of the jobs. And if you've never seen my stuff and don't know what I talk about or the angles I take on these things, I am not just going to say, woe is us. Oh no, all the jobs are going away. What? How terrible. Bring back the jobs. I'm going to get beyond that. I'm going to get deeper than that. I'm going to get to the levels that your mainstream media doesn't talk about. We'll be getting to those in a minute. But let me just start off by saying there are several analyses, several reports saying hundreds of millions of jobs are disappearing. Goldman Sachs is predicting 300 million jobs will be lost or degraded by artificial intelligence in the next few years. And I assume they must be talking globally, because we only have 30 million people in America. So if it's 300 million jobs lost in America, that'll be super bad, super duper bad. But so there are multiple articles, multiple reports saying that hundreds of millions are going to disappear quite quickly. If generative AI, it says, lives up to the hype, the workforce in the United States and Europe will be upended. Goldman Sachs reported this week a sobering and alarming report about AI's ascendance. The investment bank estimates 300 million jobs could be lost or diminished by the fast-growing technology. But I'm now this is something that I'm thinking about. I'm speaking to people or meeting people and hearing what their jobs are, and I don't know. Are you guys having this too, where I just immediately go, "Oh, that job will be gone in like 2 years"? I met someone, wonderful person, salt of the earth, like just a fucking great human being. I talked to him for 10 minutes, so clearly I know everything about them. And she said, "Oh, people give me, my job is people do reports on food safety and I summarize them." And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." And in my head, I thought, that job's gone, couple years, summarizing reports of all sorts, gone. Now, as I've talked about before, we'll get to how this could be a good thing if we actually deal with it appropriately. But before I get to that, I want to give you more of the numbers. And it's amazing that this isn't being talked about more. Like, yes, there's, I just showed you a Goldman Sachs report. So it's not being talked about at all, but this is like literally a fucking tsunami that is this impending ultra massive and quick change to our entire society, and everybody's just I can type into ChatGPT to tell me fart jokes and it'll do it. Like we're just at that level of understanding. we're like, I got the robot gizmo to replace every third word with kitty cat, and then it's funny. If we use it for simple things, we're like, I got the AI to put bunny ears on everybody I talk to on video chat. It's like, dude, this is, don't you understand? Everything humans do, we are getting to the point. And I love the people that are like, "Oh, well, don't worry, they're going to be replaced by other jobs." No, don't you get it? We're getting to the point in human advancement via technology where we are the fucking insects. We are going to be so dumb. There's no like AI will just look at us quizzically and go, "Why do you exist? What's your point again? What about you is useful?" But listen to some of these numbers, which are just jaw-dropping. Automation is predicted. AI is also called automation, depending on what you're talking about. Automation is predicted to displace 20 million manufacturing jobs by 2030, which sounds low to me, actually. And 25% of American jobs are highly susceptible, with 73 million jobs potentially lost in the U.S. over the next 5 years. Okay. 73 million jobs. I looked up how many millions of jobs there are in the United States, roughly, because yes, we have 330 million people, but that includes children, that includes elderly. So that's not how many jobs there are. But it's roughly 100. 1,500? No, 150. Sorry, it's roughly 150 million working adults in America, maybe over that a little bit. But so 73 million jobs, if every adult had one job, would be half of all jobs gone. Now, it's more confusing than that because people have multiple jobs. So, but 73 million jobs potentially disappearing over 5 years is chaos. It's fucking chaos unless we sit down and actually figure out how to deal with this and actually talk about it in a sophisticated way, but we don't, right? Our mainstream media is just like, the jobs go bye-bye. What we do for money. Like, that's the extent of the discussion entirely. Jobs no working no more. Where money come from? That's it. That's all you can get from mainstream media. 49% of Japan's workforce. So this, I think this article is based in Japan, which is why they mentioned Japan several times. But 49% of Japan's workforce is estimated to be replaced by AI or robotic machines within 10 to 20 years. 30% of jobs in Britain are at risk of being replaced by AI, with 35% of male jobs and 26% of female jobs at risk. To give one example, at a Japanese mutual life insurance is replacing 30 employees with AI system that is expected to increase productivity by 30% and provide a return on investment in less than 2 years. I highlighted that sentence just because I love the euphemisms of these things. It's going to give a return on investment. Oh, that's a good thing, huh? Yeah, that's a good thing for the fucking 12 board members, for the stockholders. It's not a good thing for your average person. A return on investment. Oh, great. Yeah, we're going to destroy all of humanity and completely throw a wrench into how society works, and it's just going to all blow up in our faces. But the return on investment is going to be lovely. Where it's expected to increase productivity by 30%. Another euphemism. Yeah, productivity can be good if, depending on what the job is, what the work is. Productivity can be a good thing, but it's not always a good thing. Cancer, it's very productive. And humans in many ways are a cancer. So just working harder, going faster, exploiting more things, extracting more resources, eating more of those things, and then shitting it all out. Yeah, well, productivity keeps going up. Isn't it funny how the planet's collapsing? Isn't that interesting? We are a cancer and our productivity keeps going up. Couple more number, 56% of employees and this stands for Asian Asian nations. Key manufacturing hubs will lose their jobs due to automation, with a large portion of those being women in garment, textile, and footwear industries. 82% of restaurant positions could be automated in the coming years. 51% of server positions. 57% of fast food and counter workers. Yeah, you notice every restaurant you go to now, they have the goddamn barcodes on the table, which they, again, use the pandemic as an excuse to, never let a good crisis go to waste. They use a pandemic as an excuse to force you to QR code everything when you sit down at the table. Could I speak to a human? No, we don't have humans here anymore. Sorry, they all left a while ago. So you have to QR, and then you get the menu, and then you order from there. And so they've taken the job that was probably done by 5 people, and now it's done by 1, and you just scan it with your phone. And the key point I want to make here, which your mainstream media's job is to tell you, yes, a lot of these jobs are going to go away, but don't worry. A lot of new jobs will come up, and they're going to be great. Yeah, it never actually works that way. Yes, new jobs do pop up, but generally not in the numbers that we used to have, nor in the amount of pay that we used to have. So you see increasing inequality. This is yet another reason that the U.S. has gut-wrenching inequality, with 64% of Americans recently saying they have had trouble paying for necessities over the past year. 64%. It used to be at a good middle chunk of the country that was considered middle class, that didn't have to worry about paying for necessities every month. But now 64% say that. We have a Gini coefficient, which is the calculation. The calculation of inequality in a country is the Gini coefficient. We have a Gini coefficient that is greater than ancient Rome before its collapse. It is immense inequality, with a tiny cabal of the top 1% ruling over the systems and the resources, and in many ways the world, although I guess the U.S. is perhaps the vanguard, the front of this late stage capitalist system. Um, it also says by 2025, AI could take over 52% of jobs globally. So yeah, hundreds of millions of jobs disappearing by all calculations. Yes, some people say 2 years, some people say 5 years, whatever. The point is hundreds of millions of jobs disappearing. And I feel free to comment and leave a comment here as to whether you think the jobs that you have might be disappearing. I very much hope that an AI program does not come about anytime soon that can replace those who shit on the ruling elite, because then my job would be up for grabs. So hopefully there's no AI program shitting on the psychopaths who run things, because if that app ever comes around, then I am screwed. But I'd be interested to see how many of you think that your job may, maybe could disappear from AI. A lot of video editing people, a lot of various people that work with data, pretty much all accountants, like all of these things. I went down a long list on a recent live stream of things that could disappear. Even doctors. It's not just I think that's the other thing is people think, oh, uneducated jobs could disappear from AI and from advancements in technology. It's like, well, actually, I think the people running the jackhammers, they might actually stick around for 10 more years. Whereas doctors, unless you're performing maybe some very sophisticated kinds of surgery, but doctors, the whole like diagnosing people who give you symptoms, that could be done way more reliably and often quicker than going to some guy with a fancy degree who hasn't actually been in school for 30 years and then he gets your diagnosis wrong. So, doctors could disappear quite easily, lawyers as well. Like, so it's not just the uneducated that would lose their jobs. But these numbers are even shocking me, even though I have talked about this on recent live streams, and I think it should be talked about far more often. But here's again, and I need to reiterate this. This is an important part of this story, is that if we actually saw outside of capitalism, gasp, if we were to actually be able to view this world outside of capitalism, if we as fish inside the water could imagine what the world would be like outside of the water, then we could live in a system where all of this stuff would mean wonderful things. It would mean that the wage slavery, most of it, would disappear. And then we could live what many called leisure lives. Now, I know that sounds like, as someone who's hardworking, I think I'm fairly hardworking myself. You may be as well. You may hear leisure life and think, fucking pathetic, loser, get up off your ass and do something. But leisure life also means that you could follow your passion. You could actually do what you wanted to do with your life. When you were 10 years old and you said you wanted to be an artist, or you said you wanted to discover, study flowers and insects and things, and then you found yourself working at the Denny's, getting more ketchup for people. You could actually go back to the thing that was your passion, and we would educate the next generation on finding their passion. And that would be their job, rather than getting more ranch for the ranch dressing for the people that that ask for something from the waiter, and then when you go to the back of the kitchen and go get it, and you come back and they go, oh, you know what? Could you also get me some ranch? And then you go get the ranch and you come back. And you go, oh, it turns out I need some more water, and you go get the water and come back, and I dropped my knife. And then at that point, you end up going to get the knife, but you then stab them multiple times in the neck, and I feel it's justified. At that point, I feel it's justified. Furthermore, I do think that we could come up with an AI program that stabs people in the neck who order too much ranch dressing. So I think that's actually, I've heard that's in the works right now. Boston Dynamics is coming up with a death to ranch dressing requesters. So good to hear. But seriously, this view of the world that we could have a leisure society where we are post scarcity, right? You don't actually have to work to find food anymore. You don't have to. Yeah, there is enough clothing in the world to clothe everyone. There are enough houses. I talk a lot about these 16, 17 million houses sitting empty around the United States right now. There are enough houses, there's enough clothing and shelter and food and all that thing for everyone if we actually distributed it correctly rather than distributing it in this disgusting inequality based system of exploiting people and creating 64% of the country is afraid for next week as to where that money is going to come from. And this was actually discussed by many philosophers back in the 70s, 60s, 70s, when computers were beginning to come online. And these philosophers could see where things were headed. Oh, these computers are going to be amazing. They're going to get to a level we can't even imagine. And at that point, it's going to put everyone out of work. And we will have a leisure society where people, you just get paid a dividend each month, and people just find their passions. And so I wanted to read to you. This is an analysis of philosophers, a summary of what many philosophers were saying back in the 70s. And they thought this would happen by the 1990s or early 2000s, is what many of them predicted. Definitely by 2020. 2020, of course. That would be like the latest any of this would happen. But so this summary of what they were saying about a leisure society comes from ChatGPT. Because I was like, you know what? I could go and find various quotes from various philosophers, but I feel like it'd be easier just to ask ChatGPT to summarize it all. So here's what the AI tells me about a leisure society. Some philosophers argue that as technology advances and automation replaces human labor, society will eventually transition into a leisure-focused era where individuals have more free time. They envision a society where work becomes optional or significantly reduced, allowing people to pursue personal interests, creativity, and self-development. Oh boy, sounds awful, doesn't it? Sounds like we should really fight against doing this. Philosophers highlight in the potential benefits of a leisure society, such as increased well-being, self-fulfillment, and the opportunity for individuals to engage in meaningful activities that align with their passions and values. Oh, God, that sounds awful. Can you imagine engaging in meaningful activities that align with your passions and values? Oh, bleh. However, critics express concerns about the potential challenges and implications of a leisure society, such as the loss of purpose and identity, which is dumb because all we need to do is, as you'll notice with the uncontacted tribes and things, they don't have jobs, they don't have wage slave jobs, they don't really have money that they share with each other. Yet, do they sit around miserable that they don't have purpose and identity? No, because they've been raised with a purpose and identity that fits their culture and their lives. So we could raise kids with a purpose and identity that fits not in a wage slave system, but in a follow your passion system. Gasp, who could imagine? Increased, then it also says critics express concerns about increased inequality. I don't know. Could inequality get any worse? If not everyone can access leisure opportunities. Oh, well, that's true. And that's actually true right now. We're already in that world where the rich, many of the rich, do not work hard at all. I mean, yes, you may have a CEO who's a billionaire who works every waking moment. Now, he doesn't work harder than a janitor who also works a lot. However, he does work hard. But that CEO who's a billionaire also has kids and a wife and probably other family members that he supports who sit around all day. And, hopefully they've found their passion. Some of them become assholes, not all of them. But there are plenty of incredibly leisurely rich folks in this world. And they're not all miserable. They don't all lack self-identity. Some do because they were raised in a shitty way. But philosophers emphasize the importance of addressing these challenges and fostering a balanced approach. So there you go. There's AI telling us how we could set up our society if only we started thinking about it. And And I'm going to keep bringing you these numbers and as they updated and change, but I've just been looking at some of the AI programs that are already available or they're in beta, and it's like, all these things that people have jobs doing, scheduling stuff. There's for example, coming up with an animated design that in a video that could walk around and do things. If you were in charge of doing that, that was a huge undertaking, right? You'd often draw it out, then you'd put it into a computer system, then you'd come up with costumes and looks, and I wanted to have a dragon head or whatever. I saw a demonstration trailer for an AI that can do that. Literally, you type in like, show me a man with a dragon head wearing a sci-fi costume, and it would give you four choices. You want the costume blue or yellow, and that one, and then in background put crazy sci-fi factory behind it. Boom, it's there. So basically, a video that used to take months to create, maybe years in the 90s, but used to take months to create, now takes about 3 minutes. And that's for video editing. That's something pretty sophisticated. Animation, something pretty sophisticated. But anyway, I think this needs to be talked about, and hopefully we can come up with an answer that is not sending bombs to heads of universities and airports and things like the Unabomber did. But hopefully there's another route. That's what I'm hoping for. All right, I want to move on to Roger Waters fighting back against these insane accusations against him. So for those of you who haven't been paying attention, by the way, in about 10 to 15 minutes, this will just go to Rumble and Locals, Rumble and LeeCamp.net. This will continue there in about 10 to 15 minutes. But so Roger Waters is under all these, the attacks have increased heavily against him. You probably know Roger Waters, Pink Floyd, amazing musician, wrote The Wall and so many other great rock operas and rock songs. But he's also an amazing human being. He has fought for Palestinian rights. He's fought for Julian Assange. I was lucky enough to do one show with him in New York, with him, Cornel West, Katie Halper, Randy Credico, and we hung out afterwards, and I bought pizza for everyone. So I would like to say I paid like $30 to get pizza for Cornel West and Roger Waters, and I think that's my claim to fame. But anyway, but amazing human being. Like most celebrities, and I mean big time celebrities like Roger Waters, they're not willing to use that capital, that celebrity capital, to go up against the mainstream talking points. They're sometimes willing to use it in the mainstream talking points, which is not risky at all. Being Sean Penn and going, I'm going to fight for Ukraine. It's, or Madonna's out there at the Women's March. And I'm not saying, well, for Sean Penn, I am. I'm not saying Madonna shouldn't have been at the Women's March, but I'm saying those type of things, when you're just doing something that is the mainstream form of activism, the mainstream, you're not risking anything. Roger Waters has gone against the mainstream. He's stood up for the persecuted and the oppressed in this world that the ruling elite are working actively, mainly the American ruling elite, working actively to crush. The Palestinians and Assange are probably two of his biggest, but he's stood up for many people over the years. So right now, in case you were concerned as to when now is, I better clarify, because you say now, people are like, when now? But now, right now, I think he means now. Right now is this concerted effort to really crush Roger Waters and try to brand him as anti-Semitic, as a bigot or something, which is hilarious considering his body of work over decades. But okay, I'm setting this up too much. Let me first show this video, 2 to 3 minutes long, of the State Department trying to address one of their own people has tweeted or commented about, or Instagram posted about Roger Waters. and they seem completely incapable of responding.
In his speech today before APAC, among other things, positively cited Ambassador Deborah Lipstadt, ambassador on anti-Semitism. She recently tweeted, I wholeheartedly concur with a European group condemnation of Roger Waters and his despicable Holocaust distortion. The European group had tweeted, Roger Waters' gig in Berlin, is there anything more anti-Semitic than using Anne Frank as a prop on a German stage while prancing around in a Nazi uniform attacking Jews? This is an incredible distortion of what happened. I don't know if you're familiar with The Wall, which is possibly the most classic rock opera in rock and roll history. It's an unrelenting denunciation of fascism and racism. One of the songs in it features him as mocking a demagogue, like Charlie Chaplin did, and talking to the crowd and saying, are there any queers? Are there any Jews? Are there any blacks in the audience tonight? Get them up against the wall. And then he gets a machine gun and mows them down. It's an obvious attack on fascism, and yet your ambassador is denouncing it and pretending that Roger Waters, presumably because he defends Palestinian rights as well as other people's rights, is an example of anti-Semitism. Are you going to distance yourself from this, or are you going to back it?
I've not seen that tweet, nor am I familiar with this piece of expression, so I'm just going to refrain. I'm going to refrain from offering anything else.
You're not familiar with The Wall?
You're not
surprised,
familiar with
Pink Floyd?
No, I know who Pink Floyd is. Thank you. I know who Roger Waters is also. I'm just not familiar with, with this.
It caused a little bit. It caused a bit of a stir a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. So it would be interesting to see, particularly since an administration official saw fit to comment on it. What you guys think from here?
I'm happy to check for you, Matt, but I've not seen the ambassador's tweet, so I will refrain from weighing in further.
It's not like one ambassador is talking about a subject that's not in their portfolio. She is beyond parody distorting anti-Semitism and criticism of Israel. He used Anne Frank's name as a list of people, of martyrs who he reveres. This is an incredible distortion. I think it's imperative, if the State Department isn't going to wholeheartedly dispense with any pretense about anti-Semitism being an actual problem and only use it as a way of denouncing people who stand up for Palestinian rights.
That is absolutely
well,
not.
Proof is in the pudding. I want a response to this, please.
That is absolutely not our approach to that.
Well, prove it.
I mean, look.
All right, I'll stop it there. But literally, they're claiming someone is anti-Semitic who is literally mocking the Nazis and mocking, what they stood for, and saying essentially in his work that, this could happen again and you need to beware of it. You need to beware of fascism. But so here is someone who is addressing fascism, mocking fascism, tearing apart fascism in his art, in his work, in his music. And you have people saying he's supporting fascism. It is the most idiotic stance I've ever seen. And here is our State Department going, I've never heard of, I don't know the things. I've never heard of any of it. I don't know what is Pink Floyd. Because they can't really address it. So now I want to show Roger Waters' response to what's been going on. He talked about it for about 20 minutes on YouTube. I'm just going to show 1 or 2 minutes of it. But he addressed this attack, and it is a large-scale attack. I mean, it is multiple media, across multiple media outlets, claiming he dressed like Hitler and he's glorifying Nazism, when he does the polar opposite of that. And actually, if you see as he's dressed, it's not even a swastika. It's crossed hammers. It's meant to mimic a demagogue, a Nazi type society, but it does not have a swastika or anything of actual Nazi symbols. But okay, so I want to show you Roger Waters addressing this.
It'll be all right. We'll get.
Sorry, skipped a moment there.
Brothers and sisters in Manchester, it's insane. If we shout the lie loud enough, Roger Waters is an anti-Semite, we'll be all right. We'll get people to believe it. We can vilify him. We can probably destroy him, and we will get him in the end. Well, no, you won't. Because it is a lie. You can gather as many fucking morons together as you want to repeat your lie, but it remains a vicious lie. The narrative that I'm an anti-Semite and that I'm promoting fascism by wearing a leather coat and that I'm having symbols which are crossed hammers, by the way, not swastikas or anything that is literally Nazi, Third Reich, German. 40 years I've been doing, 40 years, every single year almost between 1980 and now, I've been doing bits of that show. Why now? Why suddenly now would people be picking up and going, he's wearing a replica of a Nazi uniform on stage. He's obviously glorifying the Third Reich and Nazism. He's doing that as part of his general attitude, which is that he hates Jewish people. All over, all the press in the Western world, everything, Roger Waters, anti-Semite, glorifying Nazism, wearing a thing. Okay, well, if we could deconstruct that.
So I'm going to stop there because he gets into a long explanation that would be, I'd have to play the next 10 minutes, but feel free to look up that video if you want. And I'll see if I can find the link for you. But he asked the question, why now? And the answer is because he's been successful at drawing attention to the Palestinian cause, to Julian Assange. He's been, of celebrities and of those who have a platform, he's been more successful than others. And so that's why they're going after him right now, because they need to shut down this voice. He does it on a stage that millions see around the world. He tours and millions come out to see him perform, and he makes them aware of the Palestinian cause, of Assange, and of other exploited peoples. And so they need to shut that down. They being, our ruling elite here in the US, the ruling elite in the UK, many of the ruling elite in Germany as well, which is some of the most aggressive people going after him for a show that mocks Nazi type individuals. And it does, the biggest point of this, other than we need to defend him and make sure he is not canceled for daring to speak out against fascism. But the other larger point is, what kind of bizarre dystopia have we arrived in that those who stand up and fight back against fascism and against state abuse and against persecution and against the oppression of those who are weaker, they're called fascist. They're called anti-Semitic for standing up and fighting back against it. Literally the polar opposite of what's going on. It is just fucking pathetic to see this from our media. And then you also, not only can you indict the people who have actively done the pushing of this storyline that Roger Waters is anti-Semitic, not only can you indict them, but you can also indict all the rest of the media who's not standing up for him, as they didn't stand up for Assange, as they generally don't stand up for Palestinians, as they don't generally stand up for other oppressed people around the world unless it aligns with the U.S. empire's useful, victims. Like, oh, this specific, we care about this specific human rights tragedy right here in this one country because they're a socialist country and we want to stop them. But this is all of our, like, where are they? Like they should all be furious to see a spokesperson, whether it's in music or it's in art or it's in comedy or whatever it's in, who works so hard to stand up for the exploited, for the oppressed. They should hate to see an attempt at canceling him, and it should make them furious. And you should hear the media speak about it. Instead, you hear silence. You hear crickets. You hear just complete and utter silence from your mainstream media, because they do not want to put their neck out for someone who has been selected to be canceled by the ruling elite, by the ruling empire. They're not going to do it because they have sold their souls to corporate America, and they're just looking for what gets them higher on that ladder. And for a while, Assange was, before he was imprisoned, before he was persecuted, Assange was the, a golden boy to much of our media. The Guardian using his work for articles, the New York Times, Washington Post. But then the moment the empire turned on him, they all got in line. And they all said, what? Assange? Oh my God, what a traitor. What a absolute horrible human being. What a criminal. Because they are licking the boots of corporate power. And I wanted to bring this to you because I think we all need to stand up for Roger Waters, because as with anything, he is one of many. Perhaps he's one of the most public, one of the biggest celebrities in terms of this happening. But he's, if they can do it to him, they can do it to anyone. And they're seeing how far they can get. They're seeing how much they can. They've been going at it for many years. They actually got corporate sponsors to pull out of his tour in the past. So this isn't the first time that they've gone after him, but this is a much bigger attack than in the past. So I wanted to update you on that and show you what it is that that they've been doing to him, but hopefully it can be fought against, and we can make sure that his tours are not stopped, that his ability to get his message out there is not stopped, and of course that Assange is freed as well. All right, I'm moving on to the next topic. I'm gonna talk about the explosion at the Ukraine dam, the dam in Ukraine that was blown up, and now large areas are flooded, and how ridiculous the propaganda is around it. All of that is at rumble.com/LeeCamp, rumble.com/LeeCamp. If I have time, I'm also going to show you some more climate activists making a fossil fuel shill look fucking ridiculous. I love bringing you those videos. All of that's at rumble.com/LeeCamp or LeeCamp.net, my locals page. So if you're at Rumble or locals, this video will continue exactly as is. And everybody who's not, I hope you join up at LeeCamp.net. You get my new ebook, Dangerous Ideas. You get that for free when you become a member. You get all the live streams whenever you want them when you become a member. You get a Q&A